I'd like to look at a problem here, and then we're going to take a problem, we're going to expand it a bit, but we're going to do one problem and cover every question that we might possibly have. And we're on page 447 of the textbook, and I want to go with this as brown color ink, okay? And number 14 says junk mail. Direct mail advertisers send politicians solicitations, aka junk mail, to thousands of potential customers in hope that some will buy the company's product. The response rate is usually quite low. Suppose a company wants to test the response to a new flyer and sends it to 1,000 people randomly selected from their mailing list. Whoops, let's start this. Of over 200,000 people. They get orders from 123 recipients. And then it says create a 90% confidence interval for percentage of people the company contacts who may purchase something. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a confidence interval. But the very first thing we need to do before we do anything is we need to make sure, is this reasonable to do? Because what we need to find out is, are conditions met that are going to allow us to do a whole lot of this normal type stuff with this information. So we've got to look at the conditions and check the conditions are met. Okay, condition number one is, do we have randomness? Well, let's look at the problem. And conveniently for us, it says, wait, it says it, stop that. It says, it says, and sends it to 1,000 people randomly selected. Ha-ha! All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a quote here, and I'm going to quote the problem correct exactly. I'm going to say it's randomly selected. I'm not just going to say it's random. I'm going to say it's randomly selected, quoting the problem, so it looks like I've read the problem, which I have, and I know what the problem is saying, so it's randomly selected. I'm quoting the problem exactly. Okay, number two. What's the next thing I need to check? I need to check for independence. Okay, now randomness tells me that one piece is not going to influence the next because each one has an equally likely chance of being selected. Okay, but how do I check independence? Meaning, how do I know that too many pieces aren't going to affect too many pieces? And the way I do that is I check, is my sample less than 10% of the population? Okay, well, my sample size here happens to be 1,000. Okay, now I've got selected, randomly selected 1,000 people from more than 200,000 on the mailing list. All right, so if I do this, 1,000 divided by 200,000, you know, I should be able to do this in my head, but I never do. So 1,000 divided by 200,000, I use my calculator, 0.005. I'm good to go. Okay, is it less than 10%? Yeah, it's less than 1% actually. Okay, 3. Is my sample size large enough? Okay. Do I have enough successes and enough failures to make this into a normal shape in some way? And I check that by seeing, are my successes greater than 10? Is n times p greater than 10? But wait, I don't have p. No bladder jokes. So I have to use the next best thing to p, which is going to be p hat. N times p hat. Is n times p hat greater than 10? Well, n is 1,000. Okay, and my sample size, I don't know what my proportion is just yet, but here's what's really interesting, okay? The number of successes, I know that this is 123. 123 of 1,000 would be 0.123. Okay, so is that greater than 10? Yeah, all right. So, n times 1 minus p hat has to be greater than 10. All right, so logically speaking, if I've got 123 successes out of 1,000, how many failures do I have? 877. That's greater than 10 too. All right, conditions are met. So we're ready to go on. So what am I going to do next? Well, next, this is for my benefit. I'm going to define n, I'm going to define p hat, and I'm going to define p. So n is the 1,000 people that I sampled. What is p hat? P hat is the 123 out of the 1,000. And then this is the people who bought something. All right? These are the people who bought something. So what is P? P is the proportion of the population. And then what we said is that the definition from here on is the same as the definition taking away the sample value. All right? So, is a proportion of the people who bought something? Well, they haven't bought something. I'm predicting that they're going to buy. So I'll say will buy. Okay, that's good. Now I'm ready to create my confidence interval. Okay? Now what I remember about a confidence interval is that P hat is equal to, and then P hat plus, or start that one again. P hat plus or minus, thank you very much, my margin of error, that buffer zone I'm going to add and subtract from this. And what does my margin of error consist of? My margin of error consists of my critical value, otherwise known as Z star, okay, times my standard error. And what is my standard error? My standard error is going to be the square root of P hat times 1 minus P hat over N. All right. Announcement.
Teachers, just one announcement, just in case you have not checked your email yet, the grading window will be kept open until Tuesday at 9 a.m. There is some confusion about if it may be 3, but as of now it's 9 a.m.
Blah, 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 blah. Okay, there we go. 0.123, plus or minus. It says a 90% confidence interval. What's the Z star value for a 90% confidence interval? 1.645 times the square root. Okay, P hat again, inside here is 0.123 times 1 minus P hat, 0.877 over N, which is 1,000. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this step by step. So I'm going to start off with the standard error, and I'm going to take the square root of 0.123 times 0.877. 0.123 times, see, I got an extra 7 in there. Delete that. 0.877 divide by 1,000. Now I just divided by 100,000. See, you know what? This is delete. Okay, there we go. Divided by 1,000. Enter, and 0.0138. Boy, I hope that's right. All right. So what I have here now is I've got 0.123 plus or minus 1.645. And what was that? Wow, my memory's awful. 0.0104. And I'm going to write times 0.0104. Okay, now that's my rounding when I'm writing. So you round when you write, you don't round when you calculate. Because now when I calculate, I'm not going to use this times this, I'm going to use what the calculator had. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to sit there and say, I'm going to take that times 1.645, and that's going to give me my margin of error. My margin of error is 0.017. So now I'm at this point, where's my thing? It's right here. I've got 0.123 plus or minus 0.017. This is what I'm going to use as my margin of error. Now I can finish, and I'm done with my rounding here. Okay, so what is my confidence interval? Well, my confidence interval is going to go from, let's just break this out, 0.123 minus 0.017. It goes from 0.106 up to, and I'll break out my calculator again, 0.123 plus 0.017. to 0.14. There's my confidence interval. What are we doing for time? I don't know. We've got a minute left. All right, so how are we going to state this in terms of our confidence interval? Well, what we say is we are 90% confident that. And now comes our definition of P. The proportion of people who, whatever that is, would buy is between, and what was it between? It was between 0.016 0.106, I didn't even say it right, and 0.14, between 10.6 and 14%. Okay, now keep in mind, if you say a proportion, you have to use proportion. If you want to call this a percent, if you want to say it's 10.6 and 14%, you better say the percent of people who would buy is between. All right, we're going to come back, do some more of this problem, because it's exciting. It's exciting.